Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on the country you're connecting from. It is a pleasure for me to welcome you to the seventh session of the South-South Series, Empowering and Growing Women-Led Business, organized jointly by UN Women and COLEAD. Today's session will focus on women pioneering in the blue and green economies. My name is Nina Desanlis-Perrin. I am a project officer in the Networks and Alliances Department at COLEAD, based in the Brussels office, and I will be moderating today's session. Slide, please. So before starting the session, I would like to remind everyone how to engage during the webinar. You can exchange information or insights in the chat function. We also encourage you to submit your questions via the Q&A feature, as we will have a dedicated time at the end of the session for our panelists to address them. Please note that the session is available in English, French, and Spanish. To choose the language in which you wish to follow the session, click on the globe at the bottom of your screen. If you don't find the globe logo, you might have to click on the three dots at the right side of your screen. Finally, this session is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube, and all the resources that will be used throughout the webinar, including presentations and key points, will be shared on the AgriNovators platform. Slide, please. So let's quickly go through the objectives of the South-South series. If it's your first session with us, we wish you a big welcome. So the collaboration between UN Women and COLEAD started back in January 2025, so a bit more than a year ago, and targets entrepreneurs in the African and Caribbean countries and beyond, focusing mainly on businesses in the agri-food sector. The South-South series are tailored for business leaders and women entrepreneurs, aiming to foster collaboration among entrepreneurs, share knowledge, showcase successful experiences of women entrepreneurs, and enhance business skills, market access, and networking opportunities. Slide, please. So after 6 very successful sessions in 2025, the seventh session today focuses on women pioneering in the blue and green economies. We have more than 400 registrants today, so hopefully it will be a very enriching session. The agenda for today is the following. I will start by giving an introduction to the topic, and then we will hear welcoming remarks from Angela Davis and Ines Bastos. We will proceed to the panel on experiences from women pioneering in the blue and green economies. We will hear from Tacko and Ndiaye, Dr. Legena Heruy, Rahel, Heruy, and Maria Elvira Lopez. We will then have some time dedicated for questions, and finally we will end with some key points and the path forward. Slide, please. So today's session will highlight the critical role women play in shaping sustainable, climate-resilient economies and driving innovation across the blue and green sectors. For those who joined our previous webinar on climate-resilient business models for women entrepreneurs, today's discussion builds on that foundation. We explored how women are disproportionately affected by climate change and structural barriers, from limited access to land and finance to gaps in technology and markets, and how innovation, climate-smart practices, and gender-responsive support can turn these challenges into opportunities for resilient growth. Women are central to agri-food systems, fisheries, and coastal livelihoods. Yet, persistent barriers remain. Many operate in informal or invisible roles, face unequal care responsibilities, and have limited decision-making power. These constraints are not just social inequities. They represent missed economic potential. At the same time, opportunities are expanding. Digital tools and traceability systems in the blue economy are improving visibility and market access, while climate-smart, women-led enterprises in the green economy are scaling impact and building resilient value chains. Through South-South exchange, we can move from dialogue to replication, sharing inclusive business models that actually work. So today we will hear directly from women who are turning these opportunities into action. Before getting deep into the subject and listening to our wonderful panelists, we will first hear some welcoming remarks from Angela Davis and Ines Bastos. Slide, please. So I'm going to give the floor first to Angela Davis. Angela is a development professional with over 20 years of experience in public health, sexual and reproductive health, and international development. For the past 11 years, she has led strategic oversight for major international organizations, collaborating with governments, donors, and civil society to deliver evidence-based, equity-focused results. Angela, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you. From that introduction and bio, you must wonder, why is this woman with a background in public health talking about agriculture and the blue and green economies? But like persons working in the blue and green economies, the reality of our current world ecosystem requires us to shift and change, right? And as we have shifted, as we have changed, some of us have pivoted into different spaces. And for me, my work with UN Women has allowed me to pivot and to participate in work in relation to the blue and green economies. So I am pleased to be able to bring the years of experience to this space and to also learn from all of the individuals that I encounter on just what makes this space tick and what makes it as valuable as it is. Sometimes we give lip service to what is value, but when we look at our current world environment, we know that the blue and green space is really a space that holds tremendous value for the sustainability of our world, for the sustainability of our ecosystems, for the sustainability of our food security, for the sustainability of the air we breathe. So I'm pleased to be able to participate in this space with you. So thank you for the opportunity. When we talk about women being pioneers in the blue and green economy, what are we talking about? The reality is that women are pioneers in all that we do, in all spheres of our work. Women are pioneers because we continuously adapt. We adapt structures, behaviors, and economic models to our own realities. I am sure the panelists joining us today have faced multiple barriers as entrepreneurs, as workers, as mothers, as daughters, as women. And yet we continue to shape new pathways towards sustainable and inclusive growth. The blue and green economies in the Caribbean hold enormous promise for advancing climate resilience, economic diversification, and sustainable livelihoods. Across the 22 Caribbean territories and islands served by the UN Women Multi-Country Office for the Caribbean, we note that women are already leading innovation across the blue and green economies. They are transforming ocean-based industries, advancing climate-smart and circular business solutions, and harnessing creativity, culture, and innovation as drivers of inclusive and sustainable growth. Today's webinar highlights concrete examples of this pioneering leadership. Ms. Heruy, founder and CEO of Rum and Sargassum in Barbados, is transforming Sargassum seaweed, traditionally considered an environmental challenge and a nuisance, into a valuable resource with multiple sustainable applications, demonstrating how women innovators are shaping the blue economy through circular and climate-smart solutions. Likewise, Ms. Heruy, Managing Director of Damascene Essential Oil in Ethiopia, is advancing green economy practices by cultivating organic indigenous herbs and spices within the protective Kaffa forest biosphere, linking environmental conservation, sustainable agriculture, and women-led entrepreneurship. These examples remind us that women are not only participating in emerging sectors, but they are redefining them. The Caribbean context is unique. Our region is composed largely of small island developing states and territories that are highly exposed to climate change and economic shocks. Yet at the same time, they are exceptionally rich in biodiversity, marine resources, and cultural innovation. This dual reality, vulnerability alongside opportunity, defines the Caribbean development pathway. The region is home to almost 10% of the world's coral reefs, approximately 45% of global fish species, and around 25% of coastal species. coral species, sorry, making its natural ecosystem an invaluable asset, not only for the Caribbean itself, but also for global sustainability and climate resilience efforts. And across the world, there are others that can learn from what we do in this space. Together, these countries and territories represent a population of approximately 8 million people, of which 4 million of whom are women. Across the region, an estimated 1 to 1.5 million women are economically active in sectors directly or indirectly linked to the blue and green economies, from sustainable tourism and marine value chains to agriculture, climate resilient entrepreneurship, and circular business models. This highlights both the diversity and the strategic importance of women's economic participation for the Caribbean's sustainable future. Available evidence confirms that the central role of women across sectors linked to the Caribbean blue and green economies has been provided through the efforts of FAO, for example, the Food and Agricultural Organization of the UN, where they highlight that the fisheries sector employs approximately 62 million people globally, with women representing around 24% of the workforce in primary production and up to 40% across aquatic value chains, particularly in small-scale fisheries. Women remain significantly underrepresented in green jobs, those that contribute directly to environmental sustainability or that reduce greenhouse gas emissions, compared to jobs in more polluting industries. Although most workers are still employed in neutral sectors, this gap is particularly important as green jobs, which already represent around 1 in 10 jobs globally, are expected to grow rapidly as economies transition towards sustainability. And here lies the opportunities. In advancing economies, for example, only around 6% of working women are employed in green jobs, compared to 20% of men. And the share is even lower in emerging and developing economies. This matters not only from an equality perspective, but also from an economic one, as green jobs often come with a significant wage premium, in some contexts reaching 9% for men and up to 16% for women, meaning that women risk missing out on higher paying and more future-oriented opportunities if barriers to entry are not addressed. I often say one of the key levers that we have to get more young women interested and engaged in the blue and green economies has to come from education. It has to be pivoted towards more innovation and drawing in the science. Science is something that speaks to young people. We talk about young women in STEM, but this is where the opportunity is to show them that there are lucrative opportunities available in this space. So it's not just an altruistic act, but it's an act where true livelihood advancement can take place. But we have to tap into those levers and encourage and entice young people, particularly young women, into this space. As we look ahead, the transition towards blue and green economies must be shaped by women at the center, not only as participants, but as leaders and innovators. Closing gender gaps in access, skills, and opportunities is essential to unlock the full economic and sustainable potential of the Caribbean. Investing in women's leadership today means building more resilient, inclusive, and climate-smart economies for tomorrow. Because when women pioneer, entire communities move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela, for this very inspiring speech. I will now give the floor to Ines Bastos. Ines has over 20 years of experience in technical assistance, monitoring, and policy development, specializing in agri-food sector development, program coordination, and network management. She currently serves as co-lead team leader and gender focal point, overseeing agri-food programs in Eastern and Southern Africa and supporting companies backed by social and impact investors. Ines, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Nina. And thank you so much, Angela, for the very inspiring welcoming notes. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's really an honor to join you today for the 7th session of the UN Women-COLEAD South-South Series, dedicated to empowering and scaling women-led businesses in the agri-food sector. As mentioned by Nida, I've been working at COLEAD. I provide in technical assistance and I try to provide solutions to our partners. Partners that are SMEs, operating only at local, but also regional and international levels. So we work really with several levels of structures, very small, also large. We've also worked with public-private stakeholders across the whole agri-food value chain. As mentioned also by Nina, I'm also the COLEAD's gender lead, driving our commitment to equality of opportunities through our gender strategy and action plan. In fact, COLEAD's gender strategy was launched in 2024 and rests in three main pillars: equality of opportunities in access to resources and markets, inclusive value chains that benefit all the actors, and women's leadership in the agri-food system. So it's very key, the aspect of women-led structures and organizations that can be inspiring and serve as examples. And it was already mentioned that we are aware of all the challenges that still exist and will continue to exist in the next years. Very unfortunately, there is still this very big gap. And these challenges include, we already mentioned, access to finance, land, gender biases in technology adoption, climate vulnerabilities that continue to persist. But we are also quite positive and confident, and we witness in our daily contact with companies, with structures, with women, with men also, because men are also part of, obviously, of the solution, that are opportunities and are successes. And this is what we've been also highlighting through the UN WOMEN-COLEAD series, is really to showcase those stories, because they exist and they are there and they are very inspiring. So women across the agri-food sector are in fact breaking barriers, innovating and leading transformative change. And we will have few stories today. And this brings us to today's focus on the blue and green economies, which are not only engines of growth, but also platforms for women to lead and to show their full potential. In my work at technical assistance and in the different projects and programs I've been working with, I personally witnessed and seen how women's leadership in these sectors can be really transformative in communities and ecosystems and the entire economies. So I really am eager to hear from our panelists and also from you during the Q&A, all the participants that are here today. We have this format of webinars, so it's not feasible to each one of you that is here today to present yourself. I see already some familiar names, but I maybe invite you to in the chat to include your name, your company and your country, so that we get to know each other during the next 1 hour and a half. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here and looking forward to hear our panelists. And I give the floor to our moderator, Nina. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ines. Okay, so now we're going to move. I'm just waiting for a thank you. So now let's go deep into the subject on women pioneering in the blue and green economies and actually listen to the experience of very interesting women in the sector. So slide, please. So first, we will hear from Tacko and Ndiaye. Tacko and Ndiaye is gender team leader at FAO's Rural Transformation and Gender Equality Division, coordinating a multidisciplinary team on agri-food systems, rural transformation, natural resource management, and climate change, including initiatives for the International Year of the Woman Farmer. With nearly 3 decades of experience in gender mainstreaming, she has worked with FAO, UN Women, and UNICA, advancing women's economic empowerment, social inclusion, and sustainable development policies and programs across the agri-food sector. Tacko, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nina. And first of all, I would really like to commend you, UN Women, for organizing such an important event on a discussion that is really very timely, given that we have just launched the International Year of the Woman Farmer to be celebrated all of 2026. So as we know, women are at the heart. Can we have the PowerPoint? Yes, next slide, please. Thank you. So as we know, women are at the heart of blue and green economies. They're key actors across blue and green agri-food systems as farmers, fishers, processors, traders, forest product collectors, and entrepreneurs. But what we don't highlight often is that women produce and nurture the agricultural labor force, producing and feeding children across the life cycle. So we know that, for instance, in 2019, women made up 38% of agricultural workers across crops, livestock, fisheries, and forestry. And in fisheries and aquaculture, they represent about 50% of the pre and post-harvest workforce and around 23% in forestry and tree-based value chains, mainly collection, processing, and trade. We also know that women are overrepresented in more local, informal, lower value chains, usually labor intensive, vulnerable kind of employment, seasonal, where market roles often mirror domestic responsibilities. And we know that even in higher value male-dominated chains, their contributions might be overlooked, unpaid, hidden, undervalued, with limited control over the outcome, the income that is generated. Next slide, please. So what do we do as FAO to empower women entrepreneurs in blue and green economies? First, we strengthen their access to the resources, the services, ensuring that they have equitable access to the land, the water, the finance, the inputs, technologies and innovations, but also the extension services, including the digital tools. But we also build capacities and skills through the technical, entrepreneurial, and leadership training across value chains, including in business management, the climate smart practices, the financial literacy, and the organizational skills. We also understand that we need an enabling environment with supportive policies and institutions, and therefore we support the designing and implementation of the gender responsive policy, the investment strategies, the legal frameworks, and all informed by sex disaggregated data to allow women and innovations, women-led innovations to scale and thrive. As we speak, talking about enabling policies and legal frameworks, we have this database of all legislations that have anything to do with gender as they relate to agri-food systems. It is called GenderLex. And if you want to know all the legislation on the subsectors of agri-food systems that have said anything about gender equality or women's empowerment, that would be a good source to look at. We also work to foster partnerships and partnerships between public and private actors and knowledge exchange, linking women entrepreneurs to mentors, markets, and sharing best practices so that we can strengthen innovations in blue and green economies. Next slide, please. So I'm going to share a few of the initiatives that FAO has been championing. Chief among them is this FAO and the International Agri-Food Network initiative. It's called the Accelerator Mentorship Program for Women-Led SMEs in Africa. And this initiative was launched in 2022 to pilot this accelerator mentorship program, providing one-to-one mentorship with leading women entrepreneurs and experts from around the globe, and offering capacity development and tailored training, including mandatory but also optional courses, access to certain knowledge products, and practical tools. So under the initiative, we facilitated numerous workshops and interactions with global leaders, promoting the peer learning, the kind of business networking among women entrepreneurs from the North and the South, and guidance on accessing finance and developing business plans. So another key area is also about women's leadership, innovation, and impact in sustainable agriculture, food systems, and local communities. And the results we can share is that it's been a very transformative program in terms of empowering 150 women entrepreneurs since the inception, and also impacting about 750,000 people through job creation, to the value addition and sustainable agri-food innovations. Next slide, please. So another initiative related to the forest and farm facility is the Sun Lives to Scale, which is a women-led eco-enterprises in Damascene in Nepal. So through the Rajakot multi-purpose cooperative with the farmer and the forest and farm facility, our country office in Nepal and other partners, including FECOFUN, supported the indigenous Dalit women and youth entrepreneurs in terms of production of sun leaf plates, the bamboo crafts, and the woven products. So this is really very much into the agri-food sector, but also beyond, because now we are touching on bioeconomy, which is also a very emerging sector. So the initiative combined skills development, the women tailored machinery, market linkages, the business networking, and the eco-awareness and agroforestry restoration, so that we could expand climate resilient green enterprises. And as a result, there was an increase in the production in all product lines, over the 200% at time, over 100%. And 60 plus women now have entrepreneurship leadership roles. They represented in governance with a great increase by 57%. The income increased more than fourfold, and in terms of intra-household power relations, we feel that they also have increased the role in household financial decisions. And that, from an environmental perspective, the number of trees that have been planted have also dramatically increased by 1,800 plus, and the restoration of 10.46 hectares was also achieved. Next slide, please. The other one is really about sustainable fashion industry, but how do we transform fish waste into leather that could be used by the fashion industry. And this is a project in Cape Verde, in the Sal Island, so in São Vicente, and the initiative tackles environmental, social, and economic challenges through the bioeconomy innovation, using fish leather as a medium. And here the project looks into economic inclusion, the training, the market linkage, and how do we strengthen their roles in the textile supply chain. So here we've seen that in terms of waste management, bio-waste, 37,900 tons of discarded fish skins that would have been wasted anyway have been annually turned into sustainable biodegradable leather. reducing waste, deforestation, the toxic chemicals, and the greenhouse gas emissions. We have also, through the program, created skills development, income generating opportunities in fish leather processing, strengthening women's economic autonomy and community resilience. And we've also linked the environmental sustainability with gender equality priorities, offering this replicable bioeconomy model for inclusive and greener coastal economies. Next slide, please. So now we are in the, we are in full force into the 2026 International Year of the Woman Farmer, which we believe is a great opportunity to accelerate the transformation, the change. And the year has been sponsored by over 120 countries worldwide. And it really offers a great opportunity to raise awareness, mobilize actions, close the gender gaps, and improve women's livelihoods and opportunities. And we believe that it provides a very strategic platform to scale up what works. First, we have to document what works. How do we scale up the proven approaches? How do we strengthen the partnerships? How do we amplify women-led innovations that drive inclusive, resilient, and sustainable agri-food systems? And it's not just about awareness raising. We hope that beyond the international year, beyond 2026, the outcome would be a tangible transformation in the lives of women farmers. So how can you join the year? You can share stories, success stories, participate in different events, connect with networks, download posters. You can also be creative and innovate and identify your own ways of making an impact during the international year. Thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you. So maybe just to add that when we talk about the woman farmer, our view is very large. It's really all women working in agri-food systems, in both off and on-farm segments of agri-food systems. We look at intersectionality and we look at all subsectors of agri-food systems as well. I thank you and hope you can join the effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Tacko, for this very informative and inspiring presentation highlighting FAO's work. And we really hope some of you here today will join the International Year of the Woman Farmer. Jara, if you can put the... Perfect. So next, we will now hear from Dr. Legena Heruy. Dr. Legena Heruy is an MIT-trained mechanical engineer and CEO of Sargassum since 2021, leading the commercialization of an indigenous renewable transportation solution in Barbados. She also lectured in renewable energy at the University of the West Indies, and she researches sustainable Caribbean energy solutions, including biofuel from Sargassum seaweed, ocean thermal energy conversion, and wave energy. Dr. Legena Heruy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm gonna send a request to share my screen. Okay, and I got it. Thank you. Okay, great. So thank you, Nina, for that introduction. So we're Raman Sargassum, and we are, we are transforming the crisis on the beach into a positive. So just this graphic, we took this picture in March 2025, May 2025, at Concept Bay, Barbados, which is normally a beautiful beach area. But this is a 200-meter jetty, and that gives you a sense of the scale of a sargassum mat in the ocean during the height of sargassum season in Barbados. Okay, so what is the scale of the crisis? Last year, 38 million metric tons of sargassum entered the Atlantic Ocean, and 1/4 of that landed on Caribbean beaches. So this caused disruptions to coastal ecosystems, which would mean turtles were impacted, marine mammals were impacted, reefs, etc. It resulted in millions of losses in both tourism and fisheries markets throughout the Caribbean region. And for 2025, there was a 9% drop in hotel occupancy related to sargassum season. In terms of hydrogen sulfide emissions, throughout the Caribbean, rotten sargassum on the beach, people have come to recognize the smell of it, but the characteristic smell comes from the hydrogen sulfide gas that it also comes off the seaweed as it breaks down. And on the island of Martinique, research was done on what is a public health implication of this hydrogen sulfide gas, and it's really serious. So there's lots of different reasons why this is a crisis for our region in the Caribbean. So our solution is climate-friendly energy production. And so we take the sargassum seaweed and we combine it with local manure and agricultural waste and rum distillery wastewater from the rum industry, which is throughout the Caribbean. Rum is one of the major product of Caribbean islands, and so rum wastewater is always available. This is a bioenergy solution. So we take these 3 substrates, we combine them into biodigesters, and then that produces renewable natural gas. And this renewable natural gas could power the electric grid. It could power road traffic. In this case, in this picture on the right, it is actually doing both things. We used biogas to run a generator and then charge this electric car. This is a Nissan Leaf.
In progress.
So this is me in the back of this Nissan Leaf, which was charged with sargassum seaweed, and at the front we have a Barbados Minister of Energy at the time, Senator Lisa Cummins. We have staff from USAID and then my campus principal, and this is at Test Drive Zero in September 2024 when we drove a car charged by sargassum, which was a world first car to drive on sargassum seaweed. Okay, so from the biodigester there's a waste digestate, and that digestate can and is applied to agricultural soil, which then, so this soil feeds the sheep that give us the manure, and the system starts over, and that's a circular solution where the waste stream actually becomes an agricultural input. And so this is, we call it, this solution demonstrates the circularity between biogas and the agricultural sector. All right, so what is the market size? It looks like something like a $2 billion Caribbean market for natural gas. And if we look at an international example like Mexico, around a $1.4 billion US dollar market. So this is producing renewable natural gas from sargassum as a substrate is actually a scalable solution. In terms of us, rum and sargassum, what kind of traction have we had? So we are actually now in the middle of implementing a CNG bridge where we are strategizing and implementing a way to sell compressed natural gas now in Barbados to local customers, and so that will give us a revenue stream, and we expect by this July to have this revenue stream, and these will be future biogas customers because natural gas, renewable natural gas swaps 1-to-1 with regular traditional natural gas from the fossils. And so our bridge towards the marketplace, we've used this practical route to do that because natural gas is a done and understood technology. And so we've actually imported some of the know-how and some of the technology from Trinidad next to Barbados, where there's I think right now it is something like 20,000 CNG customers that drive their gasoline car on natural gas in Trinidad, and so we're implementing a similar solution in Barbados. In terms of earlier than this, and in terms of all the traction we've raised over 700,000 US in grants and early seed capital, and that brought us to Test Drive Zero, where we drove the electric car on Sargassum. We'd achieved over 500,000 data points in the lab by the time we got to Test Drive Zero. And we've been selected for Global Climate and Ocean Incubator programs since 2019 when we launched the first experiments. And so in terms of the major points of progress, it was Test Drive Zero, the world's first car to drive on Sargassum seaweed. We've been funded by the EU, and we've generated this financial model for an 8 megawatt plant using Sargassum in Barbados. And we think this 8 megawatt plant could guarantee no more Sargassum on beaches in Barbados if we go out to the deep ocean and harvest in a strategic manner using satellite insights, using data science and drone technology. I mentioned the 500,000 data points. We've also have a patent pending for our fuel formula, and we've seen serious strides, serious correspondences and agreements between two governments and one other potential customer. And so we're seeing a lot of progress along the journey of this solution. We've also been featured internationally in the press, and that too speaks to the excitement and the reception of the public around this solution. In terms of the competitive analysis, so Nina mentioned that I'm a former lecturer for renewable energy at the University of the West Indies at Cavell campus. And so I guess we're enthusiastic in this space about renewable energy solutions. And many professionals in this space, we say there's no silver bullet in terms of renewable energy solutions. The way you make your electric grid and your energy system in a country most resilient is that you should vary your solutions. And so having some solar, some wind, some bioenergy, it's probably the best approach to making an electric grid stable, or any energy system, because you have your electric grid, but you also have transport, energy for transport, and then you have non-transport uses of fuel in your country. And so, but where does our solution, the rum and sargassum solution, stand among these competitors? So I would say, for solar and wind energy, they're great sources of energy. And in fact, at our pilot, we have a pilot for the biogas right next to a wind energy plant in Barbados. And we're also next to solar plants. And so we're in this beautiful little renewable energy hub in St. John, Barbados. But I would say about solar energy, solar and wind too, they both provide what we call intermittent sources of power to the grid, and so these vary in the course of a day, and it very much depends on the environment and what the environment puts in. It doesn't always respond to the immediate need for energy on the grid, which we know energy demand on the electric grid peaks at 7 a.m. in Barbados, and it dips and it peaks again at 9 p.m. And so these are times when both wind and solar are low. And so we call them intermittent sources of power, which require battery backup to keep them stable and really providing what is needed when it is needed on the electric grid. Bioenergy is not like that. When you have bioenergy, it's just like having fossil fuels. You run your generator at the speed required when required. And so these are called dispatchable sources of energy, and they provide more stability to, say, a traditional electric grid. And so we believe for small islands and small economies, an energy transition from fossil fuel to renewable would require some kind of bioenergy where all of the old physical assets of the fossil fuel era could still be used, but with a better fuel source, a climate-friendly fuel source in old technology. And so our solution prevents the coastal damage of the Sargassum crisis early. It protects the reefs and marine life. It captures methane pollution because rotting on the beach, just like the presenter presented just before me, Tacko, she mentioned if the fish waste were just there, it would put methane into the atmosphere, it would break down. So why not take it and make leather? And so this is a similar thing. This is waste. The Sargassum seaweed on the beach puts methane into the atmosphere. So the question is, why don't we capture the methane, use it for something like driving cars or powering the electric grid, and then that methane never enters the atmosphere. The carbon molecules will enter the atmosphere then as green as carbon, but still this carbon has already been in the biosphere. It's not like the carbon from fossil fuels, which is being introduced into the biosphere. And so this is still a carbon neutral solution, or can be. We love our launch pad in Barbados, and we think this solution that Barbados is enabling can change many places in the world affected by Sargassum. So you can see is West Africa, is northern parts of South America, Central America, the Caribbean Sea. They're all affected by this incoming seaweed mat, which was 38 million tons last year, and it promises to be equally scary this year, 2026. But Barbados is among the most, Barbados gas prices are very high, and in fact, if you look at it and compare globally, in Barbados, we have some of the most expensive transport fuel in the world. And this is because of the cost of importing transport fuel to a small island. Barbados has among the most abundant and highest quality sargassum. If you look at the world map, Barbados is actually 200 kilometers east of the Caribbean Sea. And so sargassum gets to Barbados before many of the other places. It's still free of all the heavy metals in our water. It's still so it's a higher quality fresh sargassum that we get in the exclusive economic zone of Barbados. Barbados is 424 times. If you multiply the land space by 424, you'll get the ocean space. And so she's more oceanic than terrestrial. And so to think of the ocean as a source of your biofuel feedstock is actually wise for a country like Barbados. In terms of policies, it's beautiful. There's 0% import duties on renewable energy, 0% sales tax, lots of incentives in Barbados because of a national policy to be fossil fuel free by 2035. And so we think of Barbados as a great launchpad of this kind of solution. In terms of my team, so I'm CEO and founder of Rum and Sargassum, but we have lots of women on the team. We have lots of PhDs on the team and a strong team with high quality local Barbados experience, but also international training and international experience. And what have we achieved as a team so far? So we proved concept by 2013, validating and protecting our idea through funding that was raised. And then we pulled off Test Drive Zero in 2024, where we drove the first vehicle powered by Sargassum. We're now implementing our customer acquisition bridge, where we're selling CNG to future biogas customers, and we expect revenues by July this year. We have our first initial biogas plant that we've kind of used previous grant funding to come up with this model for a $4.4 million biogas plant to power around 50 homes, and that will give us a year 5 payback from the first investment on that. And then our hope and our dream is by 2035, when Barbados is fossil fuel free, that we could have this 8 megawatt biogas plant running that would power around 3,000 homes. I mean, I'm giving you the energy equivalent. That could also go to road transport or the energy grid. So either. And so the capacity of this 8 megawatts is around 3,000 Barbados homes being powered. And so this is our timeline, what has happened in the past and what we expect to the future, and that's just a kind of model of what the financials look like for both plans. And with that, thank you for your time and your attention, and feel free to get in touch with us about this solution. Thank you, Nina. I hand it over to you. Let me stop my screen share. Okay, great.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Legena, for this great presentation. Very interesting, this innovation of making renewable gas from Sargassum. So thanks a lot. I'm sure people will have questions to ask you further on.
Thank you.
Now we will hear from Rahel Heruy. So Rahel is a senior agribusiness entrepreneur and value chain coordinator with over a decade of experience supporting smallholder farmers, women and youth across coffee-linked forest ecosystems in Ethiopia. She specializes in inclusive agribusiness, sustainable value chains, community development, and donor-funded projects. She collaborates closely with NGOs, UN agencies, research institutions, and government authorities. Rahel, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for having me and giving me this opportunity. It's really a very important point for us to discuss at this point, because we are working with more than 3,000 women farmers who are living in the forest. So next slide. I am the managing director for Damascene essential oils. We are working with herbs and spices. Especially, it is women-owned company, and we are working with 3,000 women farmers. They also having an opportunity to hire more than 5 employees per their garden. Maybe the garden is not something small here when we think about the rainforest area, especially they are living in the forest. And we are just working with indigenous herbs and spices around their home. It is organic, it is in the rainforest area. The forest is about 758,000 hectares of land. It is in the biosphere. It is registered under UNESCO. It is one of the biosphere in Ethiopia. We're also working with the neighboring areas, and which is also supporting for the area of the rainforest. Ethiopian spice belt, they call it Ethiopian spice belt, and the spice grows symbiotically with the coffee, indigenous spices plants under the forest. Here, the people believe that the first coffee sip or people start drinking coffee from this location, and we can find thousands of different indigenous and normal plants. We have more than 400 indigenous birds and animals in this biosphere area. Next slide. Next slide, please. So when we talk about women, as we are women also working with the women, so we typically understand what is the possible that we can solve people this in the communities in the forest, which means they were the one who is just keeping and maintaining the biosphere. But now, with the increase of the family size and the need for the people to grow up, this problem might, so we need to have a solution for the forest to be productive, to keep the forest, which is almost the last forest that we have in the area. So for you to see where its the location is, we are working in southwest of Ethiopia, which is somehow very dense, dense forest, and people are just living symbiotically, and with the forest. And next slide, please. We are producing range of different spices because of the landscape and agroecology of the area. It is really suitable for different kinds of plantation. But we smartly select spice and herbs because of two reasons, which is a culture is there. People are just consuming spices and herbs in their normal day-to-day life, which means they know how to grow, how to plant it, how to take care of it. But they used to take it for personal consumption or for the community consumption, which is not, it is not for the market. Comparing the needs of the international market for the spices and herbs, especially for the sustainable and traceable and continuous supply of spice and herbs, additional to the quality requirement, the high quality requirements, these two things are can work together for us. And also it is somehow easier for the women farmers to plant it in their garden. Means if we have more people producing this, then if we do the collection, means if they are in a cooperative, means if they are gathered in the group, then if we can buy from them, then it could be a good source for for us as our input, and it will be a good income source for the community. But in this process, we can support the forest. This is the original idea, and that is also still maintained with different innovative ways of how to collaborate with different responsible organizations, and how we can work with the potential to scale. And this is how we did work collaboratively. They become a supplier for us up to 15 types. This is the some of the spices that we are producing currently. Next slide, please. So by now we already organically certified with 2,000 women farmers. Currently, since we are working with 3,000, but 2,000 are organically certified. You know, the area, we cannot say that the certification is just for to show the people that it is true. But if you are coming to the area and see the situation, most of the things are done in the environmental friendly plantation or process. Next slide, please. Here, the problems that we have been facing at the moment. Okay, here we are just to explain. When we get here, 7-8 years back, there was no commercially produced production, no commercial production of the spices, even though the area is growing different kinds of spices. So, and also, especially when you compare it with the actual market demand, which is not matching. So in between, we shift our business plan of production of processing of the spices just to creating the sustainable source of the raw materials, working with the farmers. Because if you don't have enough if we don't have enough supply raw plant material, it couldn't be workable. So since then, we almost cover 2,500 hectares. It's more than 2,500 hectares, which is with the spice seedlings and at the same time a shade trees, because shade trees we could be fruit trees and other trees, which is we are in a forest, then we need reforestation, which is also positive for the spices. Spices love shade, so for their shade loving reforestation with the spice protection, and it is very supportive idea, like which is they love shade, so we plant shade plant trees. So the locality environmental protection office they studied, and they come up with a result of what is the impact with our work of working with the women farmers. They get a very positive result for the production. And also the plantation or the reforestation of the area. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so even though there is a culture of women farmers do not have access to money because they depend on their husbands and manage their finances, and also they don't have that much access to control their land. Due to our work, due to this innovative way of production, they also able to create their own income, and also it is one of the empowering concept of the community, due to they create their own income and bringing to the family, and the husband's also happy with this. And of course, all these things are not happening without a problem. For you to understand, since that's a business company, being a business company and being an inclusive and being new, it is really hard. So that's why we are working within a collaboration of other NGOs and other supporters and the government offices, which is a very important lesson for us and for others to see what is the difference. The difference comes with a collaboration of different stakeholders for some ideas. Here we still facing a real problem of finance, knowledge, and some skills in the market. But we are working now with 10 cooperatives. These 10 cooperatives having 3,000 women farmers, and the farmers having the capacity to build their own income. Means they create income. Just comparing, when we started working with them, there was no income with them, but now at least there are 75,000 per year in average for the women farmers per family, which is a big difference. We create economic independence. We create skill building with different concepts, which is enabling the women to improve crop quality, management, and organic cultivation leadership. Almost 15,000 training hours were delivered for them. The social impact in qualitative and the quantitative way were delivered, and the sustainability of the businesses. Like if you think about women who they're leading their family, they are when they take care of any plant, they give their own heart. So we can harvest. We usually have a very good quality of spices from the area. For the sustainability, if we are able to solve the problems of maintaining what we did, and for the continuity of the work, then it will be very positive and increase the number of the women could be benefited out of this process. And as a company, the more suppliers we have, the more we deliver to the market, and this could maintain the all relation between the overall the value chain. Next slide. Next slide, please.
Hi, Rahel. I believe this is the last slide.
Thank you. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any question, I will be happy to answer. And if you are interested for any kind of collaboration or experience sharing, we are really glad to entertain any of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rahel, for this insightful presentation. It's great to see the work you're doing to support women farmers in Ethiopia, along with protecting the local environment. Now we're going to go to our last panelists. So we are going to hear Maria Elvira Lopez. Maria holds a degree in environmental studies and international relations with a focus on Latin America, and is passionate about environmental justice and sustainable development. She currently serves on Conservation International's Nature Finance team, leading impact monitoring and risk analysis for Conservation International Ventures. And she supports regional capacity building through the Women in Ocean Food Innovation Studio in Latin America. Maria, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'll start by introducing what CI Ventures does and what we're all about, and then I'll go ahead and explain our Women in Ocean Food program and initiative. So CI Ventures is an impact-first investment vehicle created by Conservation International Foundation, which is a global environmental organization. And what we do is provide financing solutions that are flexible to enterprises that are working towards the conservation or sustainable management of the critical systems that our planet depends upon. Next slide, please. So we think about delivering on the impact of our mission in two ways. The first one is what we do, and the second one is the type of enterprises that we support. So CI Ventures focuses on fostering the growth of the global South through flexible and patient capital for early stage businesses that are usually the ones most underfunded and higher risk. Through this, we seek to catalyze further funding to support nature and mobilize resources into these critical ecosystems for our planet. And we do this by supporting innovative science-led solutions that are fixing specific environmental challenges. And then the type of enterprises that we invest on are solving one of these five impact themes. So the first one is the protection of high conservation value ecosystems and biodiversity, technology and data for science-based product management, regenerative systems for fruit production, circular economy and resource efficiency, or nature positive materials and supply chains. Next slide, please. Oh, it looks like my slide was a bit disheveled. Apologies for that. But we can just skip this one and go to the next slide, please. Okay, so as we've been hearing from many of our presenters today, there's this huge financing gap that exists for women entrepreneurs. Right now, it's estimated to stand between 1.7 trillion and 1.9 trillion dollars. And despite of this huge gap that exists, there's a lot of research that suggests the woman-led businesses outperform those led by their male counterparts. So, for example, I have here some numbers from a study done by the Boston Consulting Group in collaboration with Mass Challenge that found that women-owned startups in 2 times as much per dollar invested than those owned by men. And you can see in the graph below here that on average, women-led businesses were only receiving $935,000 of investment, while their male counterparts were on average receiving over $2 million. And despite of that, on average, the revenue generated by a woman-led enterprise was outperforming that of an enterprise led solely by men. So next slide, please. So as investors ourselves, we are very acute of this problem, and we wanted to find some solutions for it. So we joined our partners at Hatch Blue, which is a global aquaculture accelerator program, to come up with an equity-free business support program for women entrepreneurs driving change in aquaculture and the blue economy. This program starts with a 10-day in-person mentorship program. It's very intensive, but then it goes throughout 12 months where entrepreneurs continue to receive strategic business support, expert-led mentorship, and access to global networks in the long term. Next slide, please. The types of enterprises that our program supports are those that either produce nutritious proteins or create value from ecosystem services. They can advance climate-friendly or climate-resilient production methods, but above all, that they provide economic opportunities for coastal communities where they operate. And by supporting these types of businesses, our vision is to create a world where women lead ocean food innovation, fully funded, globally connected, and building ventures that restore oceans and uplift communities. So here I want to give a special shout out to Dr. Legena, who was one of our enterprise participants in our recent program. Last month, actually. Next slide, please. So a little bit about our impact to date. So far, we've delivered 4 in-person programs, 1 in Southeast Asia and 3 in Latin America and the Caribbean. As I said, we just finished our latest, the kickoff of this year's program in Mexico. So here are some of the impact highlights that the companies we've supported are already producing. For example, since they've participated in our program, the companies have reported over 5,000, almost 6,000 livelihoods supported, have conserved 643 hectares of coastal land, and there's been a reduction of seafood waste by 500 tons, with waste revalorized at over 1,000 tons. And relevant to our mission are enterprises that have participate in our program have been able to raise funds. So in total, there's over $4 million that enterprises in our program have already raised after the program. And I have here two specific examples of the value add that our program has provided to women-led enterprises. So the first one is a company called Aquit, and they focus on doing and like replacing antibiotics from aquaculture by finding other ways of improving fish health. And Aquit was able to, after our program, was able to continue in another accelerator program with our partners at Hatch Blue. And Hatch Blue led their first pre-seed round with over $800,000. And then another example is Maria Rosa from Ecuador. This is led, sorry, Mariana del Palacios. And Maria Rosa is focused on shrimp aquaculture. And their goal was to, or like they were facing this challenge, apologies, of getting certification because all of the farms in their women farmer program for shrimp were quite small, so the cost of certification was very prohibited. However, we were able to introduce Annabelle to the Aquaculture Steward Council, ASC for short. And now they've become the first farm in all of Latin America that's part of their Improver program that helps farmers, aquaculture farmers, get organically certified. So those are, yeah, some examples of the type of a value add that we seek to provide to our enterprises. And next slide. Yeah, these are just some fun pictures of program from last year, so not this recent one. But I'm happy to answer any questions. Just also to mention that we're going to have our first Africa focused program this year in Tanzania. It's happening later in April. So we're very excited to make it a truly global network, filling both like Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean, and now Africa. But yeah, I'm sure you can also ask Dr. Legena for some questions on how the program went for her or me, and I'm happy to collaborate and find ways we can keep on supporting women entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Many thanks, Maria, for this wonderful presentation. It's great to see, indeed, all those different initiatives that arise around the world and that lead to real impacts for women entrepreneurs in the blue and green economy. So Jawara, if you can go to the next slide. Okay, so thank you to our wonderful panelists for the very interesting insights and experiences. I must say that today's diversity in the presentations was quite impressive, and I'm certain we all learned a lot. Now, some of our participants have some questions for our panelists, so I will give the floor to Alonso Bobes to handle these parts. Alonso Bobes has expertise in program coordination, communication, and partnerships with a strong focus on gender equality, resilience, and sustainable development. He currently serves as program associate with UN Women Caribbean, supporting initiatives that empower women and promote inclusive growth across Latin America and the Caribbean. Alonso, you can take over.
Hello, Nina. Hello, everyone. So thank you for the introduction, but this is all about you, and I'm gonna start quickly with the questions that you were you were putting in the chat. Kala Griffith was wondering, she's based in Barbados, she's from Oasis Blooms, and they are interested in converting waste products in agriculture into fuel and fertilizer products. So very connected with the work of many of you today. And she was wondering, she was asking if there is an opportunity, and the question was for Dr. Heruy, if there was any opportunity for the biofuel created to be used in existing fully petroleum or diesel engines. For me, it's a very technical question. I hope you have the answer, Dr. Heruy.
Yeah, no problem. So actually, yes, the answer is yes. So the bridge we're working on now is we're converting gasoline cars by just putting a CNG kit in a gas car, and then you could drive on biogas from Sargassum. So it's fully possible. We've actually put 3 gasoline kits in 3 gas cars and 1 diesel car already. And so the hope is to just grow that as a business solution for Barbados.
Thank you so much, Legena, for the answer. And I would like to ask you another question. This one is a question I made myself, and I'm wondering myself, but you are a scientist at the end of the day, you have been working in a world that is designed by and for men most of the times. And I would like to ask you, how was your entry to this world, if you experience any barrier as a scientist woman in a world of men. So please, can you tell us about your personal experience a little bit more? Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
sure. No problem. So I guess as a girl, I was really good at math and physics, and so I wanted to study engineering. But when I was 15 or 16, I had to change high school. So I was in an all girls high school, and I had to go to an all boys high school to do further math and physics for A levels. And that was the beginning of the rest of my life, because in every classroom after that, it was only men. Because if you think of engineering courses, I went to MIT. Most of my time in MIT, I was in classrooms with only men, and definitely the only person from the Caribbean in those classrooms. So I guess I grew grit from young, from adolescence to now. So now I present to, I mean, even we presented to the banks, we're presenting to the national oil companies, we're meeting with the CEOs of these companies, and at a leadership level, and it's many times rooms filled with men, or customers, or taxis in Barbados, primarily men. But I think one of the things which I love that Maria presented is, I guess the role of women in society is we are the nurturers, and we are the caregivers of men. I have a son, and we are wives, and we just have this role that tunes us to be good business leaders. And so Maria gave numbers from Boston Consultant Group about women-led businesses being the ones that pull through and they become profitable. We're still in our startup stages, Alonso, so we're still pre-revenue. And it's taken a lot of grit from me and from my team and the other women on my team, and the men too. But it's been a process of grit. It's been emotionally hard many times. And so I think in that world that's very harsh, being a woman actually is a benefit. And we're used to kind of nurture the wound and move forward. I think that's the story of a mother, the story of a wife, and so that helps me to be a good business leader. So it's not a disadvantage. It's many advantages of being a woman in that space. Thanks for your question.
And that's a very nice way of looking at it. But the next question is for Rahel, and Caroline thought that I hope she's still here with us. She was wondering, she was asking us, she's actually developing a business in Bermuda, and she's very interested in sourcing organic spices and herbs. And she's asking if you would be able to provide contact details. You are the contact detail yourself, but just to let you know that she is interested on exploring this possibility. Do you want to say something, Rahel? Rahel?
Yes, it is a very good question, and very thank you for being interested with what we did. So yeah, I'm available. Just she can contact me, and we can talk about these things.
May I ask you a more personal question, please? I'm always
Yeah.
wondering about personal questions rather than technical ones. Uh, so you were mentioning before that there's an initiative that covers 2,500 hectares and works closely with communities and commodities production. That's a big achievement. And I would like to know, and I think people here would like to know, how does it translate into impacts on women's lives and community at the community level? Because you were telling that it's an income that they didn't have before, but I would like to go deeper and to know how this affects the women on a level community. How do you see it? Thank you so much. Over.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So we achieved 2,500. This is a minimum by now. We start from 0 hectare of coverage. We are working with 3,000 women farmers. These farmers have their own small farm. We call it backyard. This is homestead. Like they have a garden, which is not which is somehow a big, like a minimum of half an hectare they own by their garden. So that was the resource we have been observing at the moment of when we start thinking about, okay, why, if we're letting them to use this land, and if they start producing and if they create an income, then they'll be motivated to increase the size of the farming. So when we start, we give them seedlings for a few of the first 300, and we go step by step in numbers, like the number of the farmers increase timely. So while increasing the numbers, the land size also starts increasing. You know, the way that we followed, with the smartest way that we followed, is at their backyard, we letting them to grow about 6 to 9 types of spices, because spices can grow each supporting each other, like they are symbiotic, that they're supporting each other. And when we think about spice is not one commodity. You know, whenever you can think about pasta, or you can think about any food and any spice, you need at least 2 or 3 spices. So spices can grow together at the same time. When they're getting into the market, they have different way of approaching. So people or women are becoming more interested on growing different kinds of spices and herbs. At the same time, they are becoming more interested with planting trees. So this is how we reached to 2,500 hectare, which is I can say, which is a minimum. The need on because we letting them to be cooperative, organized more, so the demand in the market increases for the products they are now currently producing than they produced before. So the land size is we achieved it with this way. If I answer right, this is the way that we did it.
Yes, it's very, 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 very good answer. But I would like to do a question because I think it's linked what you just said. But they were asking in the chat. They were saying that your presentation was of course very interesting, but they are asking you if you would be available to comment how you made it somehow, but how the project helps to conserve the forest, because you were talking about this, but how specifically conserves the forest
How
in many
they
ways.
conserve the forest is their house where they live in. And even the biosphere, the conserved this UNESCO conserved biosphere is considering the community living in a forest. In culture, especially in Kafa, the culture where, yeah. the, the communities where they live in. So before they live in it, but the land is there. They conserve the trees. They used to take care. They used to care for the forest. That is the usual way of just the culture. But gradually, it becomes a problem for them because the number of their family size increases. The living situation here, it increases the price, and a lot of things for the livelihood increases. Then they used to cut the trees. But now, because the spices and herbs supporting them to get the money, and then they start understanding the importance of trees. I think this
Mhm. Mhm. Thank,
Recording in
thank,
progress.
thank you,
Rahel, we
Rahel.
can't really hear you well. Maybe if you cut your
was
camera.
there. We just support them to
Rahel?
We cannot hear Rahel anymore.
oh,
If you can, please
okay.
cut your microphone 1 second and we come back to you later, please. Thank you so much. And we are gonna. Hi, Maria. I would like to make you a question if possible. You're the last panelist, but I'm very interested on doing you a question. As you said, under Women-Led Ocean Food Initiative, you've been working with many different regions. You've been working in Latin America and the Caribbean, but you are working also as well in Asia, in Tanzania, if I don't remember but next year or this year. But I would like to know, this is a South-South series, and we are trying to connect people from all around the globe. You are a good example of a person working under an initiative that is also connecting people. And I would like to know which are the barriers you see women are experiencing in blue economies, and if there are differences between regions. So if they are having different barriers, well, we are speaking about women in Asia or Africa or Latin America and the Caribbean. I think it could be a nice to know more about this for our audience. Thanks so much. Over to you.
For sure. Yeah, I think on the more global scale that's applicable to all women in every part of the world, from like an investment perspective, there's this bias from, first of all, who the investors are. So a lot of the times, as Dr. Legena said, when you walk into a room with the investors, the people that you find in front of yourselves tend to be men. So investing is a very male-dominated world as well. So from the start, there's always like that disproportionate representation of the investors tend to be men. And then there's a big bias that has been also proven by data now that shows how investors question male entrepreneurs versus how they question female entrepreneurs. So when questioning a male entrepreneur, investors tend to ask questions that are more about your growth and like your strategy for the future and like how success will look like. Whereas to women entrepreneurs, the bias is that the questions get asked of how are you gonna avoid these problems and like how are you gonna deal with potential risks and like potential failures. So just from that way of directing the questions, there's already a perspective that like women are gonna be more risky. Like they're not like you're not talking about success. You're talking about how to prevent bad things from happening. So I think that's applicable all across the spectrum, and it makes a big difference because at the end of the day, the investor gets a vision of growth versus a vision of risk prevention. And I think more on the experiences that I've actually gotten the chance only to work on the Latin American and the Caribbean side, so I cannot really. I'll be working on Tanzania on April, but I cannot speak yet on how those look like. Like the challenges look different in the different cultures, but I can speak on the Latin American and Caribbean side. Eh, yeah, we are a very male machista society. I don't know how to say that word. But what I've seen with a lot of more community-based organizations and farmers in aquaculture is that the role within aquaculture and fisheries that women tend to play is not always recognized as actually being a valuable, like value creating, not valuable, but value creating role. So for example, we had a group of women in Colombia that they were fishers all their lives, but they were not called fishers because their role was all of the cleaning of the fish. They were selling it in the markets. They were supporting with all of the logistical parts. And the benefits that the government was offering for fishers were not applicable to these women because the government was not recognizing the role that they did in the fishery sector as part of the fishery sector, which was so problematic. So one um, of our participants from last year, I was actually working on the policy with the government to recognize those roles as part of the fishery sector and for these women to be able to benefit from the the help that the government was offering fishers. So that's one example like I can showcase where it's like in a lot of cases the role doesn't look like what the policies or the people putting the policies are thinking about. So we have to fight a bit harder to get that recognition and yeah, get the same benefits that male counterparts are receiving.
And that's why we still need to push for advocating for better policies, right? Yeah. Thank you so much, Maria. It's very inspiring your speech. There is a nice question I would like to ask Tacko. I'm putting you on the spot, but if you would like to ask to this question, it's made by Angela Davis, and she is asking us, and it's a very interesting one. What are your thoughts on how to encourage women and young women to become involved in the blue and green economy? Because at least we in the Caribbean, and I think it's generalized um, thing that is happening. We see how the generational gap is creating again a big gap between older generations working in agriculture, green and blue economies, and the young people working on them. So how can we encourage young women, to participate in the green and blue economies? Tacko, if you want to go ahead. Someone else is interested about this topic as we are? How
Yeah,
do you
sure.
see?
Well, can I say so I teach and I'm a teacher,
Uh-huh.
and we've seen people very much inspired in the academic space. And so I bring my students have been co-authors. They've been, I guess, kind of when we get work to do, we split it up and pull in some of these students, young people. So, and young women. I mean, if you look at our team webpage, Rama and Sargassum, you'll see some of the past students who came and worked under us, and they now all very much in that environmental space and environmental science and implementation space. So I think there's that opportunity in the academic space to inspire and to pull in. I mean, we have volunteer programs in Barbados for the UE undergrads. The Barbadian undergrads have to do volunteer work. And so we offer come to volunteer at our pilot as one of the opportunities they could undertake as their volunteer hours for their degree. And so we find ways to incorporate students at the undergrad level and master's students into our outcomes, and it's been good. So when I reported all our data points, that was my PhD student, who's a young woman, getting much of that data for us.
Agree. Rahel, did you recover your connection? You were testing. If you want to
Sorry.
develop your idea, you just wrote in the chat.
If this one is clear to you?
You can try and go ahead.
Yeah. So if it is possible for us to create a job, the addition for the women, especially young women, they can be interested because they are thinking, especially in the green and especially in the forest. The dream is just going out to the border knowledge, but still they need money. So if we can create a decent job, or if we can create a job for them, supporting themselves, if they can create an income from the forest or from this environmental jobs or farming, they'll be more interested. So that can help for sustaining the environment. That's what I'm thinking. The problem, which I understand from working with these women, or especially young women, is I think the income and how interesting the job is the problem for them.
Thank you so much, Rahel, for your insights. I'm gonna try to. Yes, please go ahead, Angela. Is your hand?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Alonso. And thank you, colleagues, for your inputs into that question. I noted Dr. Henry said that, there are opportunities through the university environment and that their students do volunteer work, etc. But I would really like to encourage all of you to create spaces, find opportunities to show young people and young women that there are viable livelihoods in agriculture and in the coastal communities. Because if they don't get the exposure and they don't have the knowledge, all they see is what they grew up around, which is traditional vending in markets, hustling, that type of way, especially in this Caribbean space. And we have to help them to appreciate that there's other paths. There's nothing wrong with vending that supplied food and shelter for many a family for many a generation. But we do see a widening gap in terms of young people not being interested. And I really do firmly believe that to cultivate that interest, it has to be done prior to university. It has to be done in the primary schools. It has to be done in the secondary schools, whereby they can see some of the innovation and technology and success that you all have managed to achieve in these spaces. seeing persons that look like them, that are coming from backgrounds similar to theirs, and recognizing that this is possible, using maybe different tools, applying a different approach, looking at how do they, for example, incorporate digital technology as part of that space, right? Even if it's the marketing and advertising side. Um, but it's really, really important that we start to work harder to cultivate that interest. Because if we have a bigger pool of persons engaged in the sector, that also gives us a bit more leverage to push for some of the really important policy, legislative changes, and just cultural changes around how we view these spaces. So it would be that's kind of like my plea, that we create opportunities. In Barbados, for example, we have AgriFest, and AgriFest is coming up. I don't know, for example, Dr. Henry, if you and your team have ever been a part of AgriFest. AgriFest has a day that focuses on primary school children, um, but for them to see what you're doing and to hear about the innovation, sometimes it can spark an interest. So that's just my plug. Thank you, Alonso.
Thank you so
I just
much,
want to quickly
Angela.
respond and say thank you, and we'll look at it more. We've done some of the similar formats at campus at UE, but we'll look beyond just the university space to things like AgriFest. So thanks for that suggestion, Angela.
Thank you both. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Legena. I'm answering to Rahel's question. And maybe Nina, you can jump in, but as we envision this South-South series is as a community, a little community of women entrepreneurs sharing knowledge around different places in the world. So the sky is the limit, right? Wherever you want to take your ideas, your businesses, this is a platform that can connect you. Starting from here, you decide as I said, what's the limit. I would like to wrap up this session, please. Thank you so much to all the panelists. Thank you so much to the interpreters. Thank you so much to the organizers behind the screens. Yawara, for example, interpreters, Rahel, Nina, Maria, Tacko, Legena. I don't want to forget anyone. This session marks the beginning of our journey for this year in the South-South series. We are going to have two more sessions at least. In the upcoming sessions, we will be expanding different conversations. Our next dialogue will focus on men championing women's economic empowerment. So we are going to try to introduce for the first time men in the panel, in the speech. And our third session will look at the artificial intelligence and women entrepreneurs. So something related with digital skills and what Angela was saying, this time with AI. These sessions reflect a clear pathway forward, one that is trying to connect sustainability, but inclusion also and innovation. Because for us, when women are empowered to lead, economies become stronger and communities, as we said with the case of Rahel, but we are seeing in other many cases, communities are also more resilient and development is more sustainable for us. And that's all we want. So thank you so much once again for joining us today. And we look really forward to continuing this journey that will be translated into sending you the resources of this session and sharing with you other resources and the save the day for the next session. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day ahead. A good night. Sleep well. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.
I wanted to
Yes.
just say
Sorry.
something as well. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, special thanks to UN Women for the collaboration, for the panelists. Alonso said it all. I wanted to also take the opportunity to promote our online entrepreneurs platform called Agrinovators. You will find all the information about this session, but also about different topics, including women empowerment. And I invite you to join our community farm to explore sustainable innovations that transform food systems. You can connect with entrepreneurs and experts to discuss practical solutions and build effective partnerships. And likewise, I also want to quickly speak about CEA Firsts, the Consortium Europe Africa for Research and Innovation on Food Systems Transformation. Europe and Africa are joining forces to transform food systems. So these new platforms connect researchers, innovators, and funders across continents to boost food security, sustainable agriculture, and impactful innovation. So my colleague will paste the link of the Agri-Innovators Forum and of the CA First platform in the chat, so you can have a look. As Alonso said, but I want to emphasize that this South-South series is not just one session, but it is a community, and we strongly encourage all of you to continue the conversation and collaborate beyond today's session. So yeah, many thanks to everyone, and I wish you a great end of your day.